This is the Business of Apps podcast, bringing you actionable insights from the leaders of the global app industry and the world's fastest growing apps. You can find more app news, data and analysis over at businessofapps.com.
Welcome to the Business of Apps podcast. On this show, we invite app industry professionals to cover various topics. We promise to do our best to keep it both insightful but brief. In this episode, we have Yoann Pavy, CMO at Nude. Yoann, welcome to the Business of Apps podcast.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. That's a pleasure.
Terrific. Thank you for coming, Yoann. All right, let me set the stage. So, when you're looking for a new car to buy, chances are you may check out how long does it take for your future ride to accelerate from 100 to 60 miles per hour. For non-American listeners, I mean 100 kilometers an hour. Obviously, you as an app marketer do not accelerate apps in space, you accelerate their growth in time. Today, I have Yoann to tell you a story of what it took for him and his team to acquire 300,000 users for their fintech app, Nude, during the first year on the market. But first, I always give a chance to every guest on this show to tell their story a bit. So before addressing the rapid growth of the app, please tell us about yourself. What is your background in mobile?
Yes, I can do that. My name is Yoann. I live in London, but I'm French originally. Never worked in France, always worked in the UK. I started in marketing, specifically digital marketing, after pivoting in my career when I was about 25, 26. I originally studied engineering, so I have an engineering diploma and some like a business master degree. Did a bit of that for a few years in all the industries like automotive and space in the UK as well. So that's how I perfected my English, which is not perfect still, but I'm getting there. And I decided to change career. Stumbled upon Facebook ads that were kind of like the new thing from a couple of years before that, 2-3 years before that, just getting started, and this like new wave of marketing coming up. And I was kind of fascinated by tech, social media, amongst other things. And I really liked it. So I started from there. And since then, gravitated towards disruptive tech, mostly tech apps. Did a few other things in between, but got the chance to work at Deliveroo in the early days, which is one of the success story food delivery app company in the UK, and then a little bit later on an app called Depop, which is available in the US, secondhand marketplace, fashion marketplace, a bit like Poshmark in the US. Both times led digital marketing for these companies, and now into fintech at Nude. So yeah, that's in a nutshell my parkour.
The app industry is vast. To navigate this space, you need a directory to look up suppliers and partners, and you need to know who are the best. Visit our marketplace directory at businessofapps.com/marketplace/podcast. And now, back to the show. So, Yoann, I got to tell you, as one non-native speaker and non-English native speaker to the other, you're doing pretty good in English. I'm telling you that.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay, so did you say in space? So what was the working for Airbus or any other job?
It was for a PCB supplier for space programs to control satellites on the ground. So pretty technical stuff. I had to try and sell to Airbus and like EADS, those like
Uh-huh.
space programs, European space programs. Um, as a 22-year old, fresh out of uni French guy in the UK. So I didn't do
Yeah,
very well, if you
pretty
can
tough.
imagine.
Pretty
But it was,
tough.
I think it was, I think I read about this every now and then, and I think that was probably like throwing myself in the fire and
Hmm.
learning how to sell that way and do a little bit of cold calling and actually like trying to turn up to people's office, Airbus office in Bristol in the UK, and like trying to get meetings. I think I learned a lot from that sales experience that I'm using in some ways as a marketer. um, I used in some ways a few years later. So yeah, definitely important, but very different.
Gotcha, Yoann. You're the first person on the show who worked in space industry. In my memory, none of the guests were related to that branch of economy. That's interesting. Okay.
Nice.
Um, let's get back to the Nude brand. It's been known in the UK, as we said, so it's not known anywhere else. So let's introduce what the company does, and I wonder how its name came to be.
Good question. So yeah, so Nude is a savings app to help um, people reach their most important financial goals in life. But we started with home ownership. So a little bit like in the US, owning your home is a little bit of like everyone's dream. Even in difficult times like we are right now, like most young people still want to own their flat or their house eventually. So we are them doing that through an app with a bunch of features, and it's very exciting. The name came to be very very simply from the fact that we wanted to be fully transparent with our customers. Like that kind of no jargon, like very very easy going tone of voice, and so that plays along those lines. That's what we call it. We're not hiding behind fig leaves. That's what we say.
That's a nice approach. I wonder, did Apple give you a hard time when you were submitting app to the App Store? They were asking extra questions? No, or it was pretty easy?
No,
No extra questions.
we actually got featured as a app of the day a couple of times, without even being like pushing for it. So I think the name is kind of fine. Obviously, it has some like drawbacks on Twitter. We've got like the @nude handle, a
Hmm.
four letter handle on Twitter as nude. I don't recommend you typing it. You get some dodgy stuff. But
Yeah.
other than like those like kind of like things, it's actually quite clever as a name. Like when you think about it as well, like there's another pretty big company that has a fairly similar name, just called Virgin. When you think
Hmm.
about Virgin as a
Yeah,
group,
exactly.
the word itself is pretty, as other meanings that could be interpreted differently, but is has become so big now that you don't even think of Virgin as its original meaning. You think about it as that
Exactly.
massive juggernaut of a company, right? So that's the idea with Nude.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't think I can remember Richard Branson complaining about the Virgin brand name. It's pretty great. So Virgin Music, Virgin Airlines, Virgin Galactic, it works pretty smooth and efficient. Um, so for every brand, big or small, there's always this starting point in marketing. You need to identify place or better places for people to discover your brand. So tell me about how you just solve this puzzle for Nude.
Yeah, good question. So we we started engaging with customers in 2021. There was a lot of testing, finding product market fit, building some features around what we were doing. But at the beginning, and to be honest, till to this day, there was there was a big opportunity in the savings app space, especially from ownership, to come in and really own that goal, that objective as a unique selling point. A lot of other apps already existing that arrived a few years before us tend to be like all-in-one savings apps with multi-product and kind of a generic type of message. So we came in on a market really differentiated with one goal, which made our job in marketing with my team like a lot easier, because we could really own and focus on that goal and that narrative. I think that was one. The second thing was the brand itself. Like one of the reasons I joined, to be honest, pretty early on in the journey, as part of the founding first few employees, was that the brand was really different from any other fintech that I knew from the UK landscape. Almost looking like a lifestyle app, so very soft colors, and really focusing on the journey to the goal as opposed to the monetary aspect of the product or the financial aspect of the product. So we have a big focus on time. There's been a lot of research done on like behavioral science with the app. We really take people on the journey. I think people really resonate with that, and there was nothing like that on the market. So that even attracted me to come and join and do my best with the team to boost that. Those two things really started us, putting ourselves on the market and starting to grow. And then the other things that I'm really fond of, because that's my background, is like digital channel in general. I think in many industries, but especially in fintech, there's always been a very focused product focused approach to content and marketing, even to the point that some fintech companies even said that don't do marketing as a way to be a bit provocative and be like, like, we don't do marketing, we focus, our product is strong enough, which it in my view is complete BS. But we had this very different approach to content and the distribution of that content that was really unique, and I think people really resonated with that at the beginning. Even with our big budget, we managed to get a lot of engagement, grow accounts on like Instagram, TikTok, and the main channels you can think of pretty fast compared to the existing players, just through having like differentiated content and like really, really good like educational, entertaining type of content. So I think that answers your question, at least for the beginning part. How did we get started?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, that you guys were in a position to go on the market featuring one thing, being really consistent and clear what you do for people, and it's not complicated, it's not over the place. You're not trying to sell them a bunch of things at the same time. And it's kind of remind me just a small story I read years ago in a book about the work of a marketing agency with Apple. When I think they were introducing some product, I don't remember what the product was, but the brainstorming was, okay, what would be the ad for that product? And I guess Steve was trying to pitch the idea of having an ad with multiple features presented. And the guy for the marketing agency just telling him, Steve, okay, let me do this. He started throwing a bunch of pieces of paper to Steve. Can you catch them? Nope. Here's just one. So see, it's got to be one feature. It's both psychologically, physically easier to catch just one point, one thing, one feature. So yeah, it's really beneficial when you can do that. And be that relevant and that close to what people are looking for, like this solution for their problem. Now,
Yeah, no, that's a good example. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it's kind of stuck with me. Regardless of a brand and the particular market, there's always this dream, I guess, for every marketer, the moment when people start talking about your product with each other and sharing it and suggesting to their friends, family, etc. It's like as good as it gets. It's word of mouth. Um, what was your team thinking about how to ignite this process for the Nude app?
Yeah, so we got focused pretty early on how could we accelerate virality and word of mouth through our product, and really focused on what would be the kind of tier one, tier two, tier three like layers of network we could tap into within our product, which is by comparison to what was in the market at the time, was not really existing. Like saving for your first home in most cases, up until we arrived on the market, was a very lonely road. You know, you do it by yourself, it takes years. On average, it takes 5 to 6 years for someone to raise the deposit, to put the down payment for their first property, and it was really lonely. So we kind of thought about this almost like other industry would do it, like in like Duolingo would do it for learning a language, or
Mhm.
you know try and engage with the network of the person using our app. So with that thinking in mind, we built very quickly a few features that helped accelerate word of mouth. One of them was, and it still is, Team Up. So we were the first one on the market to bring a dual view to the app, where you can send a link to your partner or your friend that you're saving with.
Mhm.
The statistic in the UK is about, like, I think 80% of people buy with someone else. So there is someone else that you can attract with a feature, and that was really, really clever. And we're still working on that feature. It's, a feature is never fully done, but we started really early on with that feature. Brought us some virality straight away, because suddenly the app works as like a two-player mode. You've got your
Mhm.
combined goal, you work towards it together. It actually increases retention, it increases all the metrics that you can think of that are important for an app, because you're with somebody else. Then we launched a feature called Gift Time, where we went, okay, after the partner, who else could we tap into? So in most cases, again, there's something that maybe in the US they also call it that, the bank of mom and dad, where you
Mhm.
ask for your parents for some help for the deposit. So we launched something called Gift Time, which allows you very quickly, through web views, without sharing sort code or bank accounts details, for your parents or your friends or your wedding guest, or to put on your Christmas list, gift list, to put money into your account. Uh, Again, we were the first one to do that in the account that we propose, within Nude. That was very, very important for us, because suddenly hundreds of links were shared by
Mhm.
that person to their network, and typically that process happens on WhatsApp, Messenger, or the messaging apps that you would have on your phone, depending where you are in the country. In our case, in the UK, it's mostly WhatsApp. But you suddenly infiltrating WhatsApp groups and family, like kind of a one-to-one type of messaging, which is really cool. And then lastly, for a bit of fun, we launched our official referral program, which we thought from the very beginning wouldn't really work if we were to give like £10, give and get £10, that kind of things, because a deposit for someone on average would be thousands of pounds, right? So something
Mhm.
that would move the needle for us, that we thought would be more important, would be some sort of like lottery type thing. So we give entries to our customers, and if they share their link with someone else, and that someone else comes in, they get more entries to a monthly lottery that we do, and we give away about £1,000 every month to one person. And that gives another layer of like interaction with our customer to like incentivize them to share links every day, to bring more people to the app. So all of these things combined, you can see like they build up almost like a cake, you know, of like layer of like features that work with each other. That would help increase that word of mouth and that virality. So yeah, that was our kind of approach for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, Dropbox was originally behind the idea of sharing the link for the service, so people can help them to grow. You're giving away certain features. In their case, it was a disk base. In return, they're getting a new customer. You're kind of getting a chain reaction. This snowball is rolling, bringing more and more people to your app, growing your user base. And what you're describing, how you decided to approach these guys, how this psychology work, like, do you know exactly the problem you're trying to solve? Not just academically, in general, in principle, but in real life, like what people do when they're like trying to save for a new house, like what kind of obstacles they're trying to solve, like what are their social interaction with people around them, their friends, their family, how does it work, these details. If you know this picture, you're really in a good position to go with a product and solve this problem and be relevant in all these places, all these moments. But unfortunately, there's only that far we can go without spending any time, any money on advertising. There's always this point you have to decide, okay, how I will be spending my marketing budget on paid advertising. So where did you decide to invest?
Yes, so that's it. We get to my bread and butter. So as I said, I come from paid advertising, paid social, specifically like from like the early days of Facebook ads. So I've always been very, and I'm still to this day, very fascinated by that channel in general, because despite all the chatters and the changes happening on other channels and stuff, like I still believe like this is if you can grow with one or two channel as a startup, when you get to like your first few years, one of them typically will be paid, and then the other one might be referral, might be, I don't know, if you're lucky, a bit of SEO. But if you can't crack the paid channels as a startup, you're very unlikely to succeed, because that's probably the main one where you're going to be able to get some serious return very quickly in the early days, to kind of like accelerate things. So we looked into it pretty early on, because for me the way paid advertising works as well is in the macros. That's what fuels your top of funnel. Like when nobody knows about you, you can have the best viral feature within your product. If you're not a social app, like a social network, that virality is never going to be close to one or above one. So it's never going to be exponential that you don't need to do paid. So imagine no one knows about your app. You need paid to kind of fuel your top of funnel, and you need it to be as cheap as possible, with having the best quality as possible. And typically, like, that's not really rocket science. Like in this day and age, we're talking about the two main channels that everyone probably is on at the moment is Meta and TikTok, right? When I mean Meta, it's like mostly Instagram, and TikTok. Everyone would know about it. So, but even within this context, I'm still quite amazed by the fact that you can go so deep on that channel. You can go very, very deep on that channel. And like people that are in like the gaming space, they will know, like the UA type of guys, they will know that there's still a lot of tests and tricks and things that you can do to actually make those channels, like those social channels, work very well for you. What I realized when I moved into fintech and joined Nude, which was, you know, effectively my first fintech experience, is like the fintech landscape, to be fair, up until now, it's still the case that in most cases, their best ad would be someone holding the card. You know, when it's a debit card, we don't have a card, we're a savings account, but it will be holding a card in front of the sky or whatever, and that would be the ad, and that's it. That would be like their best ad. Is just holding the card and just say, yeah, come, you know, open an account with us. And as someone coming from before that, you know, something like the Depop, which was very community driven, very people driven, and like with a lot of stories and community attached to even the advertising that we were doing at the time. I wanted to inject like some of those kind of learnings. So we went and worked with creators straight away, pretty early on, and managed to get those channels very, very cheap for us. So probably have one of the smallest budget in the fintech market in the UK, because we're still, you know, getting started. But managed to make some like pretty serious damage especially like in 2022, where for most of the year we were in top 20 or top 30 financial apps, with like probably the smallest budget, which means our top of funnel was probably the cheapest. So that's really how we, you know, added like fuel to the fire, and having those viral feature afterwards within the app really made, you know, end-to-end paid plus product combined work very well. Like the virality kicked off as we got more people through the door with very effective ads. So yeah, hope that answer your question. Very long answer, but
No, that it's all good. And I really like that you, Yoann, is somebody who had an experience working in space industry using this analogy. It's not a rocket science, because you know a thing or two about rocket science. So you know the difference. Yeah, that's it's a really good observation that advertising for banks, any financial institutions, are pretty mundane, pretty standard. Yeah, you get to see a card in front of a camera, and then you're asked to, you know, open an account and stuff. And sometimes I can see ads of financial institutions that are really far away, like too much away from this concept, and you kind of wonder what exactly do they mean. So striking a good balance, being relevant, talking the language people understand, like talking about the problems you're solving with them, and not just sticking with a, you know, credit card piece of plastic in your hand. But on the other hand, still not going too far away from the concept. That's a good skill. You have to strike this balance.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you guys have a newsletter. Newsletter, email, it's a great channel. It doesn't work for every generation, I would say. You know, Gen Z and younger will be introduced to email when they start working for their first job. Before that moment, they have no idea what it is. But generally speaking, that's a great channel. So how did it work for you guys for the Nude brand?
Yeah, so we've got a newsletter called Adultish. In that newsletter, we don't really talk about Nude. We talk about more generic topics, which are generally about becoming an adult, getting your shit together. Which one of these things could be getting your finances together and getting your first home? But it's a little bit broader. It was actually brought to the business before the app got launched, which I really liked. So it was launched before my time, and as I grew in my like marketing career, I got more and more interested in businesses that think about content and distribution, and talking to their potential target customers before they even have a product. So I was really fascinated by the fact that they had this newsletter that they kept launching or releasing episodes every couple of weeks. So we kept that on as I came on almost 2 years ago now. We are about a hundred and maybe 20 episodes at that point that we releasing every 2 weeks. And really for us, the newsletter is an extra, like is a brand exercise on top of what we're doing with the product, is to give us an extra thing that differentiates us from everyone else. I don't think that I might be, if I'm mistaken, someone please reach out to me on LinkedIn or whatever. But I don't think any other fintech, especially in the UK, have a newsletter like we do. It's not a thing that fintech have done, but I really like it because it's not that complex to put together. You do have to do it fairly early on, otherwise, like if you're Monzo or Revolut in the UK now with millions of customers, you're not going to launch a newsletter now. It feels a bit too late to come and say like, we're doing this nice thing. Like it's something you kind of have to like grassroots. You have to like start it from the beginning. So we kept it. It's a nice brand addition to what we do. It's a softer touch for people who are not ready to start saving with us. They still get some like really nice content. It's interview based, like this podcast actually as well. So we get people from various walks of life and jobs and age, and so yeah, I really like it. It's really nice. So a lot softer metrics to it. Like we don't really track conversions or things like that. It fits within the overall marketing effort, basically, to build our brand.
So yeah, this is your channel to speak to the people and be showing off not your expertise specifically with the app, but how well do you know the problem you're solving, and the topics that are around this core problem. Yeah, that's a great asset to have. Now, my next question will be this. Yoann, being in the marketing space for a while, what would you really like to change about mobile marketing at this point?
That was a good one, because I don't want to change what I think others are doing badly, because I want them to continue doing them badly so we can stand out and hopefully rise to the top. But if there was one thing, I would say I do, like everyone else, I do get a little bit bogged down by all the changes in attribution and tracking that happened in the last few years. Sometimes I do wish that I could go more granular at like the ad level to my conversion when I do like app, because we do app campaigns. And that's something that is kind of gone now. So we have other methods, like I mentioned, like more macro level of like looking at things in combination of all channels and looking at CAC in blended ways. But I do wish sometimes like we could go back to more reliable, granular, like this video in that campaign on TikTok is driving X amount. Yeah, that would be my wish.
I hear you, Yoann. I hear you. All right. This is the first part of the show. We're transitioning to the second one, where I'm asking just a few quick questions. I want to draw a quick portrait of my guests so people who are listening to us know people who are coming in the show a little bit better. So question number one, what smartphone do you have now? Are you been switching before between these two giants, iOS, Android, or staying one side all the time?
So I have an iPhone. I'm an Apple person now for a while. I used to have like before my 20s, I had like a phase of like trying like weird Android phones that nobody had. I don't even know if they were Android. Probably they were. There was this company. I don't know if they even make phones anymore. I had a phone from the company called NEC, NEC. They still do
Mm,
phone, these guys, NEC.
it doesn't ring the bell for me.
Uh, it was a long time ago, and I remember when I met my now wife. Um, she used to make fun of me because I had this phone, and then I went to and then like about 10 bit more than 10 years ago, I think, like I went to the iPhone side, and that was it. I've been on
uh,
iPhone for a
Never
while
look
now.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of all good times, if you can just stretch a little bit farther in time, your past, you remember your first mobile phone, flip phone or feature phone, as we call them right now, from that period?
Yeah, no, I'm I was born in 1987, so by the time I could have phone, I was in the perfect era for the Nokia 3310. That
Uh-huh.
was my with the snake game. That's my classic. So yeah, I had that one when I was in, was it secondary school. Yeah, Nokia.
Yeah, if there's a kind of a transition, like an evolution of human being, there's got to be a stage, Nokia 3310, like I don't know, Neanderthal man or Australopithecus or something. Um, Imagine you've left your home and your iPhone is sitting on your on your table. Being outside, what would be the most missing feature for you?
Mm, wait, on my phone or?
If like your iPhone is still at home, you're out, you realize that it's not in your pocket, man, what will be
Yeah.
the most missing feature? Like you would really feel you're missing
Oh
it.
yeah. Uh, I guess my yeah, WhatsApp, my messaging groups, and being able to message people. That's probably gonna be number one. Yeah,
All
connecting
right.
with people.
Uh-huh. I see. Now, is there something that you believe your iPhone is missing? Something that you like, not just looking at the trendy things people are expecting, hardware, software, but something that would make it a better device for you specifically?
Oh wow. Um, I'm gonna be selfish here. I really want uh at Nude. I really want us to build a widget that would be very useful. A widget where you can see your time to buy, your goal within your home screen. That would be really sick. I really want to do that. I think not enough apps build widgets. I think they're like the Trojan horse tactic to stay relevant in your customers phone. So yeah, that's what I would say. Very
Yeah,
selfishly.
got it. Exactly. The widget space is smaller. It's not that crowdy. If you get there, you're getting one step closer to your users because they check those widgets even more often than apps. Um, all right. That was my last question. And before I let you go, how can people get in touch with you and get more information about what you do?
Yeah, so uh, my colleagues make fun of me for being on LinkedIn a lot. So you can find me on LinkedIn, posting almost every day. Um, so Yoann Pavy, you'll find me. That's probably the best way to contact me. But I'm also trying to increase my Twitter following. So you can also find me on Twitter and give me a follow. That would definitely help me. I'm trying to get 1,000 followers. So let's go. Yeah, Yoann Pavy on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Gotcha, Jan. Thank you. Thank you so much for spending time with us and being on the show. Thanks. Bye bye.
Thank you, Artem. Bye-bye.
And that was Yoann Pavy, CMO at Nude. To listen to more episodes, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. Just search for Business of Apps and you will find us easily. Remember, we release episodes on Mondays, so subscribe and you will be able to get new episodes on your smartphone, tablet, or computer as soon as we release them. And please don't forget to leave us a review or comment on iTunes. It is highly appreciated. And all episodes will also be available on businessofapps.com. Thank you for listening. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Business of Apps podcast. For more, head on over to businessofapps.com.